Friday the 3rd day of October 2025. Of course, my name is Alexis Jeffers, and I'm here every Friday afternoon from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Sounds like a short time, and it is a short time, yes, but we try to make the best of the time slot that we have and get out as much information as we certainly can. So let me start by saying good afternoon to all of the listeners to Von Radio here on Nevis, all 5 parishes that is, especially the folks who are listening up there in the St. James area. And while I'm in St. James, let me say good afternoon to my good friend there in Barnaby, Mrs. Violet Baby Perkins. Good afternoon to you, Mrs. Perkins, and of course, you're still holding on with us and still with us, and we want to say best wishes to you. I know you're listening to this program every Friday, you said that to me, and I'm sure you're listening this afternoon. God be with you, and God continue to bless you as well. I'll come back to St. James because there are 1 or 2 other persons up there I would want to say hello to with other reasons behind it, so I'll get to that shortly. But let me also shout up the folks who are listening down there in St. Kitts, our sister island. Of course, we do have a large following of Von Radio. And now that Von Radio is on the FM band, 93.7, we can now get Von Radio throughout St. Kitts. I've driven around St. Kitts and listened to Von Radio throughout St. Kitts. So I am almost convinced that every area in St. Kitts is now getting both the AM 860 and the FM 93.7. Let me also say good afternoon to the folks in Statia, Sabre, St. Bart's, French and Dutch St. Martin. We have a large following down there. Persons are tuned in there just to, keep abreast of what is going on here on the island of Nevis, or their beloved island of Nevis. I say good afternoon to you there in St. Martin. And of course, U.S. and British Virgin Islands. And then we go to Puerto Rico. And before we go any further, let's go back down south, because we have quite a number of nationals of these islands south of us. Islands and countries, that is. Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Guadeloupe, and Martinique, of course, going further south, St. Lucia, Grenada, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, and also, what am I missing now? Well, the larger countries of Trinidad and Tobago, also Guyana. We have quite a number of those nationals here who are working with us. Some are going to school here, and of course there may have been persons who have come here just for a vacation or whatever the case might be. I say welcome to all of you. And then let's return back to heading north. And then we say good afternoon to all of the nationals of St. Kitts and Nevis who live on the east coast of the United States, starting from South Florida all the way up to Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont and those smaller states up in the northeast. And of course we do have nationals there as well. I can think of a couple. And then you come across to the Midwest. Let's call it the heartland of the United States. That's what they call it. Places like Oklahoma, places like Missouri, and Texas. We have persons going to school there and living there, of course. And then across the west, the western flank of the United States, California, Oregon, and the Washington state. I say good morning to those folks over in the west. And then, of course, over in Hawaii as well. Just the other day, I had a conversation with someone who is from here in Nevis and lives in Hawaii, and they say it's a fabulous place to live and work and vacation. So maybe someday I'll find some money and fly over to Hawaii and have a vacation there. Okay, and then of course the entire Canada, whole of Canada, but most of the cities such as Toronto, Ontario, those areas we have quite a number of nationals as well. While I'm in Canada, let me say good afternoon to persons like Skipper, Ursula Daniel, and also Viola Duncan and others. Oh, I've seen Jeffrey Doe within the last couple of, well, it's about a year now, I believe. So Jeffrey, good afternoon to you and your entire family and all who are listening there in Toronto. I say good afternoon to you. Of course, we go up to Europe and shout up the folks who are living in England, particularly in the Leeds area and Birmingham, where we have a large contingent of our nationals. And then, of course, you go to France, Germany, I'm covering the whole of Europe, Denmark, Switzerland, and then of course we come out of Europe and go over to Asia, Japan. If anyone is there from St. Kitts Nevis who are probably there on some, you know, at some conference or some other work-related trip, that is. I don't know, we might have persons living there as well, but certainly in the Republic of China, Taiwan, we do have our nationals there, students who are going to school there, persons who are living in there, and of course if you're fortunate enough to be visiting there, that is a good thing for you. So we've covered the globe, and we do that because of course we can come and jump right into the meat of the show and disregard the folks who are tuned in to this particular station, because everyone who listen, we appreciate the listenership, and we appreciate you tuning in, because without you, without the audience, without the listenership, and of course we can add on the viewership as well, because we're going through the various social media platforms. So without you, this station is not what it is at this point in time and what it can be in the future. So thanks for joining us today. I did say I was going back to the St. James area, but let me go back over to Brick Hill, or to be specific, Whitehall. Last week, Thursday, my good friend there, Clifford Foscock Brown, would have celebrated his 75th birthday last Thursday. Would have been the 25th of September. I visited him, and of course the Premier of Nevis as well would have journeyed over and paid a visit to Foscock as well. And the reason why I have gone back there is because for those who are not familiar with Clifford Brown, or Foscock as we call him, Foscock was one of those persons who survived the Christina disaster in 1970. We are all aware that on the 1st of August 1970 we had that major disaster with the sinking of the Christina, and I believe that is one of the disasters that we'll always remember as persons who are living here in the Federation. Indeed, quite a number of lives were lost. Some persons would have survived as well. Clifford Brown is one of those persons. He's not in the best of health, you know, but outside of that, I want to say he's someone who is still in tune with what is going on here on the island of Nevis. He listens to Von Radio, he listens to the talk shows that are on radio, of course, and indeed he can have a conversation with you regarding all that is happening here on the island of Nevis, which is very good. And so, in spite of and despite of the challenges, Clifford Brown, Foscock as we say, and as I say Foscock, I had to put in this one, you know, because over in that area we have quite a number of persons who are either Foscock, Cock, Tukak, well he's now deceased, that's Lofton Mills, God bless his soul. And then we also have a Kaka over there, who is this guy who manages or is the proprietor of the Squeeze Them Up Bar, you know, Danville Mills. He's Kaka by nickname. So we are famous for nicknames over in the Brick Hill, but more so St. James area, and persons love their nicknames. Can't take it away from them, you know. So Foscock, I would want to say to you, continue to hold on, my brother. Continue to do what you're doing in terms of ensuring that you're you know, taken care of, and you can live to see many, many more years of celebration here on this earth. Okay, so that was the reason why I had to run back over there. And I also want to say to all those who listen up in Orlando, for example, Sarah listens, and I was told that she righteously listens as well. And sometimes when I'm not here, persons from the United States would call and ask, well, what is the issue or the difficulty why you're not on? And of course, someone else who would call is Ernest Roberts up there in New York. And quite a number of persons would call and ask, what is the problem? And I appreciate that. It therefore means that we have a listenership, us, some persons who righteously tune in. And so we give you thanks for that, and also appreciate the fact that you value our time and your time as well, so as to spend that hour with us. Okay, usually we would recognize those families that are grieving as well at the start of the show, and I want to just say and express my profound sympathies to all of the grieving families out there. But I want to just say in particular that earlier this week we would have attended the funeral of Mr. Doval Windsor Atley. Well, he's affectionately called Vincent. I didn't know all of these names. I knew of Doval, but Windsor is a heavy name. You know, that's all like Windsor Castle. Where is that now? In England somewhere? But Windsor. But I thought I heard that they said that her parents or mom or something was not too in favor of Windsor and those names, so they gave him the name Vincent, and we would have called him Doval on most occasion, eh? But he was the father of Tamisha, Claudia, Dawson, DeAndre, Desiree Otley, who used to work here at Von Radio as well at one point, and Roxanne. And of course, siblings such as Emmantine, those of us who are familiar with Emmantine, and someone who is in agriculture and one of the persons who will continue to feed us here on the island of Nevis. Brem, we know Brem, a mechanic and also a former jockey. I don't know if he can ride a horse still, but Brem was one of those jockeys when horse racing was a thing of beauty down there at Indian Castle. And of course, those of you who know Fensick, well, most of you would know him by Fensick, but his correct name is Sylvester. He's into bodyworks and everything. So, you know, it's a large family. I can't call everyone's name, but these are the ones who I interact with on a regular basis, and I just want to express my sympathies. I didn't get to do so before, so I'm doing so now. But it was a lovely funeral service down there at the church in Craddock Road. I think it was Wesleyan Holiness Church there on Craddock Road. Turnout was excellent as well. So we'll leave that for now and say to all who are grieving once again, may God continue to be with you, lift you up and protect you through these difficult times. Okay, in terms of birthday, I have one person here for today, and that is Mr. Devante Jones from over there in Camps. That is the grandson of Velma and Aubrey Jones. He lives over there in Camps with them. Mom is Theodora Jones, who lives over here in the Cherry Garden area. But Devante is growing up into very manageable, as the old people would say. Manageable young man doing a wonderful job and has done his best to advance himself in education and everything. And so I want to commend him and wish him all the best for the future to come. At least at this pace, he should be fine. And I say enjoy today, Devante. Have a wonderful day, and you know, just continue to take care of yourself and do the best you can. But earlier this week, a good friend of mine, Leonora Dida, she would have celebrated Laverne Liber. Those of you who know Laverne, she has been in the airline industry for a long time, and I believe she works there at DHL, and then, you know, occasionally would be over on St. Kitts working at JetBlue, I believe. And then Agnola Hendrickson, my good friend up there in Brown Hill area, Akima Walwin would have celebrated on, I believe it was on, must have been on Tuesday or Wednesday, earlier this week though. But that being said, next week I know my good friend Derek Dida would be celebrating, and also Raina Quayle there on the airport road. Those are two persons from over there in Newcastle. And then another person from Newcastle, which will be next Thursday. It will be after or before I come next Thursday. Next Friday, that is. Chanel Skeet, my cousin there from Shaw's Road. She'll be celebrating next Thursday the 9th. So I say happy birthday in advance to all of you. Okay, let's move on from there. And of course, that's it for the birthday side of it. In terms of the weather, of course, we are in a new month. This is the month of October. This is the third day, and from the start of the month we've been averaging over 90 degrees. So I want to just for now change the name from October to Hottober. Yeah, maybe I can do that because it's been hot. I believe today is it is said that today will be 93 degrees. It's very hot for this time of the year. Be that as it may, I believe it's better to have hot weather and some rainfall than to have hurricanes. And you know, we have had hurricanes in the month of October in the past. Sorry. But so far so good. Most of the storms that we have seen thus far have stayed away from us. But I would pray for some rain, because we do need some rain. And of course, We just have to continue to pray, and the Lord would give us what is due to us in due course. Yeah. Okay. So I had this note here, and I just want to circle back to it. Yes. But I did say that Fuskak he celebrated his 75th birthday last week. In that particular area, in that particular corridor over there in Whitehall, I just want to recognize some persons who are still with us but have attained the age of 90 and beyond. For example, Mrs. Anita Nisbet, sometimes we say Nenen as a pet name for Mrs. Nisbet. So she is the neighbor of Fuskak. She is what, 91? I think she turned 90 last year, so this year July should have turned 91. And then just above Fuskak is another person who is over 90, which is Wheezy. Christiana Hicks is her correct name, but of course growing up we would have been calling her Wheezy all along, and she accepts her name. Wheezy, I believe, is about 93 years, 93 years old. Still alive, still on her feet, and we want to give God thanks for that. Of course, in that same area, we have Mrs. Williams, Margaret Williams. Margaret Williams is 90 years old. And she live up there in Gotoul, right? My neighbor growing up. And while I'm up in Gotoul, I can recall my grandfather who parted this life in 2013. He parted this life at 96. Yeah. March 17th is normally, or would have been his birthday. So he died in February, I believe, of 20. We can almost say he was 97, 1 month short of that. Eh? Okay. My grandmother, Miriam Jeffers, would have lived to 89. So there's something special about that corridor. Of course, Jogo Brandy is not living in that area. He's living over the gut. But Jogo is what, about, Jogo should be around 90, 91, I believe. And of course, no, he'll be 91 this year. I believe it's the 11th of October this year is his birthday, in a few days' time. If I am incorrect, someone will correct me, but I know Jogo is also over 90 years old. And so we have some persons who are blessed with longevity in that particular area, and I probably think I should move back there to live and see if some of that longevity will certainly envelop me and be stored on me in some way. But we all have to take care of ourselves, of course, to live to this age. Yeah, we have to take care of ourselves to start with, to ensure we can see 90s pops beyond. Okay, so God bless all of you, and I just thought I'll recognize you for the time you've been with us and still with us, and the contributions you have made over the years have certainly made a difference in my life and many of the young people who would have grown up in that area, Whitehall, Brick Hill, Gotoul area. And of course, your influence would have gone beyond the shores or beyond the borders of St. James and throughout the whole island of Nevis. And we thank you for that. Sometimes we just need to offer those commendations and recognitions of those persons who have been with us. Okay, moving right along. The Link Promotion 5th Annual Pork and Beer Festival will be held on the 29th of November. That is Saturday the 29th of November. This is the 5th anniversary or 5th edition. Some years ago, I would have brought the idea to Alexis Jeffers and his team. They were looking for something to do. What can we do to bring the young people together and to put on an event that is recognizable and something that will bring in some finances for them as well. And I did tell them that I believe a pork and beer festival would work. Now, they have tried this for the last 4 years. This is the 5th anniversary. So it therefore means something is working. And so I want to commend all of the folks who are associated with the Links promotion and commend them for continuing this event. It starts at 12 midday on the 29th of November, and it goes until. Now, this year, when I saw the lineup of the artists and the entertainers that will be there, I had to say this is like a mini music festival, because here are the artists and the entertainment that they'll have over there. Odyssey Band, Collision Band, DJ Dangles, Dynamic Sounds, Braveheart Sounds, Selector Bobby and Toby, DJ Wet Dot, Tough House Sounds, Rokodan, Speedy, Pakis, Empress, Ritik, and many more to be added in due course, they say, yeah? So there'll be lots of food and drinks and of course the usual entertainment for the entire family on the 29th, Saturday the 29th of November 2025. That is the 5th annual Links Promotion Pork and Beer Festival to be held over there at the old Whitehall basketball court. So I want persons to put that in their calendar and go out and support the young men and support what they're doing. The crowd have been good over the years. This year we want to see an even bigger turnout over there at the event on the 29th of November 2025. That is Saturday the 29th. Okay, let's move on from there. I just want to pay some respect and homage and also recognition to Mr. Frankie Daniel. Frankie Daniel lives up there in Fountain. He's a fisherman by trade, and of course we know of what might have happened or would have happened, some months ago when his boat was stolen. So it's like his actual tools and equipment that he used to ply his trade was stolen some months ago. And of course, through the efforts of the Nevis Island administration and many other persons in the community over there in St. James and throughout the island of Nevis and beyond, of course, all efforts were made to ensure that Frankie Daniel received a boat, an engine, to go back out to sea to ply his trade. Now, the reason why I brought up his name is because earlier this week, Frankie was recognized for his efforts and honored for his dedication and lifelong service as a fisherman here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And of course, the CRFM, or the Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism, and also the Department of Marine Resource would have put this package together to honor Frankie Daniel over there at the Caribbean Agriculture Week, which is ongoing over on St. Kitts. So he was honored, I believe, on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. It's either Tuesday, today's Thursday, earlier this week though, but let's not get bogged down with what day, but earlier this week. And I saw Charmaine Daniel Hanley would have put out something on Facebook, that is his daughter, and of course the response was tremendous. And so I want to thank persons for giving their commendation to a hard-working man, Frankie Daniel. And indeed, Frankie, we have all benefited from your exploits and your hard work. From time to time, you'll see persons going down to the Newcastle Bay to buy their fish. And not only there, he goes to St. Kitts as well and sell his fish there. So, Frankie, may God continue to bless you. And hopefully you would go from strength to strength, protect you throughout the days and weeks and months and years ahead as you continue to ply your trade. Congratulations to you, and it's good when persons are recognized for their efforts. It is indeed a good thing. We should not ever forget persons who continue to build this island and ensure that we can have some sustainability in our food systems. Whether it's agriculture, whether it's in the fishing business, or whatever the case might be. So Frankie is one of those stalwarts who is being recognized or has been recognized, and we certainly commend him for that. God bless you, sir. And God's willing as well, I'll come down and patronize you tomorrow and get a couple pounds of fish. Hopefully it will be a good fishing day tomorrow. Okay, moving right along. Okay, it's now 25 minutes past 1, and sometimes the time flies so fast, but I want to make sure that I covered all of the items that I had here to disseminate before we get into some of the issues that we'll touch on today. Okay, so over the past couple of weeks, or since this bill was passed in the Federal House, that is the Special Sustainability Zone Authorization Bill 2025 was passed, there have been a lot of discussions, a lot of truths, a lot of lies, a lot of opinions, and facts have been put out there as well too. But it has been a discussion. Some have been not so nice though, if I were to put it that way, because some persons are really getting personal with these attacks and personal with some of these issues. And I will say that as Nivisians, we are better than that. There's no need to get personal about something that can be a critical turning point in our history. Everyone will have their opinion. I have mine. Premier has his. Other members of his cabinet would have theirs. Persons on the street would have theirs. People in CCM would have theirs. Persons in the NRP would have theirs. So it is somewhat of an open field, so to speak. So you can express your opinion, but we can be respectful, and we must understand that most of what we say when we get negative about certain developments that are about to take place in our federation, but more so in Nevis, can have that negative impact on the investors or on the climate that they're seeking to invest in and that kind of thing. But we can be strong, forceful, but respectful in what we say and do. But anyway, what we are realizing is that a lot of categorization have been taking place in terms of calling people all kind of names. And I've been hearing that from the NRP, of course, they've been saying, well, some of the things they've been saying, one such thing is that the CCM is selling out to foreigners, yeah? And that is their saying, because the CCM as a party in government does not think like that. We embrace investment, and we are all for foreign direct investment. We know that there are challenges out there in terms of even with the sale of our passport, which we'll talk about just now. But one of the things that I really want to address is the fact that there are persons out there who are saying, oh, we ain't want no foreigners here. CCM selling out to foreigners and all kind of things about foreigners. And I say to everyone out there who have that type of thinking or are expressing that kind of thought, I want to say to check yourself. And why I say check yourself? The persons who are seeking to invest and bring this investment to the south side of Nevis, in the first instance, they are, or the person in question who I am aware of, which is Mr. Olivier Janssens. As far as I am aware, he has been a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis for the past 10 years. So you may see him as a foreigner, and you may label him as a foreigner, and all those who own hold our passport, you may call them foreigner because they were not born here. And that is your right to do, but it doesn't make any sense when in truth and in fact, they have every rights and privileges to this federation, including Nevis, as any one of us who hold that St. Kitts and Nevis passport. So you call him a foreigner, you call persons who were not born here foreigners. But in truth and in fact, they would have gotten their passport, whether through a descendant, they would have gotten their passport through the CBI program, purchase a passport, whether $400,000, whether $250,000, whether $175,000, $150,000, or in some cases, we understand there was underselling where some persons even got our passport for $30,000. But they have that passport that says St. Christopher and Nevis. You may even get a passport through marriage. And so when you call someone who has a St. Kitts and Nevis passport or St. Christopher and Nevis passport a foreigner, I want to remind the NRP first and foremost, before we get any further, that if by using your opinion or your line of argument as to who are foreigners, even though they have a St. Kitts Nevis passport, then I would have to say to you to look within and look at yourself, because you have a leader who was not born here, who is leading your party, the NRP, and she was not born here, but she is a citizen by way of descent. So she was not born here, just like Olivier Janssens, just like the 50,000 plus persons out there who have our passport that paid for them. They got it by some means, but they were not born here. And you're calling them foreigners. But I will say to you that you have a foreigner then. By using your line of argument, you have a foreigner who is leading your party and who is holding a St. Kitts Nevis passport the same way, just like all of these others. So are you going to call your leader a foreigner? Well, by your line of argument, well, she is. She is a foreigner to this place. So we have to be careful when we are out there calling persons foreigners, because by the same token, a Jamaican who would have spent 14 years here, a Dominican who would have spent 14 years here, a person from the Bahamas or from Trinidad and Tobago, wherever they're from, or from the whatever country they're from, who would have come here as a CARICOM national, spent 14 years, qualify to apply for a passport and receive a passport of St. Kitts and Nevis, then you're calling them foreigners then too. Yeah? So I am saying to myself, where are we going with this type of argument when we're calling persons who have our passport? And while I'm on this passport business, yeah, I did say over 50,000 persons. We don't know the correct answer to that question because we get all kind of different numbers. Over 50,000 persons are out there in the world somewhere who would have bought our passport, the St. Christopher and Nevis passport, by whatever means, whether it was through their contribution to the SIDF, whether it was a purchase of real estate, whatever means, but they have our passport. Now suppose all of those persons someday decide, I am going home to my adopted country. Mark you, they might be in, well, somewhere in Europe, they might be in India, they might be somewhere in Asia, Hong Kong for example, and because St. Kitts and Nevis looks more attractive at this point in time, with all of the turmoil out there in the world, they decide I'm going home to my adopted country. What are you going to say? You don't want them come here? Because they're foreigners? You can't answer that. You could say it yes, but it will mean nothing. And also suppose they say, well, Nevis look attractive for investment. I'm going home to my adopted country to invest. What are you going to say? You don't want them here? You could say that, but it wouldn't mean a thing to them. Because they have all rights and privileges that all of us who are born here have. And that is the reality. And as soon as you start to neglect, and not neglect, but disregard these realities, we're heading down the wrong road, and we are creating problems for ourselves and our children to come. But we must acknowledge the fact that some time ago in 1984, legislation was passed to set up what we are now doing in terms of the citizenship by investment program. 1984. And we have sold a number of passports. It therefore means that we have sold citizenship to a number of persons out there. And we have to respect that because we have collected their money. Over $6 billion of their money we have collected. Now if we didn't do what we're supposed to do with that money, well, hey, blame all those who had management of those monies and those funds. But I know we have gotten a little here in Nevis, and I say a little because such as what we got compared to what has been collected in those funds over there in St. Kitts, compared to what we have got, we have spent our money to improve electricity. We have spent our money to improve water. We have spent our money to improve our road infrastructure, even the financial infrastructure down there in Charlestown, that is the treasury. Those were monies that were derived from what we got out of those passport sales. We have built a facility over there in Jones Estate, the Uwali Water Taxi facility. We have improved communication all up and down Nevis in our ports, like say the airport and the seaport. We have improved in communication there. We have also improved our social safety network here on the island of Nevis. We have done quite a bit in terms of what little we have had in order to improve the infrastructure here and otherwise here on the island of Nevis. And so we have collected their monies. If we haven't put it to good use in some regard, because over in St. Kitts, you all of the difficulties over there with water, electricity, roads, everything. I'm not here to talk about St. Kitts, but those are well documented because it is a fact that they're over there renting generators, while we over here would have bought what you call generators that base load generators or whatever they call this, not no containerized generators. We bought two 3.8 megawatt generators up there at the plant, and of course one of them was bought in 2016 out of the $5 million US which we got out of the SIDF. But I can say to you that this administration, this CCM administration, has done a marvelous job in ensuring that the little that we got, we were able to put it to good use. And I just articulated all of the areas and more that we have spent those meager resources, I call them, because compared to $6 billion and we would have gotten just about $400-500 million, that is peanuts compared to the lion's share that was collected. So go back to what I started with. We have been pointing these accusational fingers. We have been denigrating persons who we claim are foreigners, and we don't want them here. Don't sell your land to no foreigners, they say. Don't do this, don't do that. But when it's all said and done, those same foreigners are citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. And until we can grasp that reality, we'll be continually making the same mistake and saying the same old thing. But I want us to respect and have regard for those folks. What I will say to the people of Nevis and to the NRP, why don't we sit down and figure out how can we capitalize on these high network, wealthy persons? How can we capitalize to improve the island of Nevis? Because even though we have good water supply, good electricity, there's so much more to be done on the island of Nevis. There's so much more. And the bottom line is, I want to look at what I believe could be game changers here on the island of Nevis in terms of what can we do with the monies that can be derived from a potential development over here in the south of Nevis. Because I don't think I want to say if it's going to come. There's a high probability that it's going to come. And so I do believe that whatever is to come, we have to look at how we can reposition Nevis for future growth. I remember back in 2020 when COVID-19 hit. During COVID-19 and the aftermath of COVID-19, we were talking about all sorts of things we can do in agriculture to reposition agriculture, revive agriculture, reinvest in agriculture. We were using these terms. So, what can we do? Or how can we reposition Nevis and put it in a position whereby we can see its future development? Not for us. I am 56 years old. And there are those who are out there making all kind of noise. They're now 65 and up. I am thinking about the younger persons or the young men and women who are coming up behind us. Those who are leaving school. Those who have gone away to study, who we are encouraging to come back to Nevis to help to build the island of Nevis, when they would have gotten all of the technical and professional training. Come back to Nevis to develop the island of Nevis. Because Nevis does have tremendous potential. We are nowhere close to what we can be. And so these folks have come and they have been putting forward possible development plans for the south coast of Nevis. Some may say we are selling out lands, and let me be clear about this. And it has been said from time to time, and I'll say it again. The government of Nevis, the Concerned Citizens Movement in government, and the NIA is not selling any government land over there. Let us be clear about how land go in Nevis. I have said before, and I'll say it again. You have private landowners, and you have the government, which is a landowner. The government holds lands on behalf of the people of Nevis. Private persons have their lands. Private persons can do whatever they so desire with their lands. If they choose to sell, they can sell. If they choose to not sell, that is their prerogative and that is their desire. Who can tell anyone what to do with their lands? Because I'll tell you this much. Those persons who are saying do not sell your land have already sold theirs and collected as well. I cannot say and be sure that they have collected all of their monies, but some of them are smiling to the bank. And as a matter of fact, I want to commend those who have sold and have sought to move forward in buying lands elsewhere, to put down an apartment building, to put down a particular business, to build a home, and to make their lives better. It's like taking up one investment and then disposing of that investment to reinvest in something else. That is common sense. There's something right and something good about that. If you were to realize, say, $1.5 million over there after you would have sold a piece of land that you couldn't do anything with before, then you take that money and go to another part of Nevis, another area in Nevis, reinvest it in a home, for example. That's an investment, a long-term investment, because many of us are going to outlive our home and leave it for our children. That is passing on generational wealth as well, because land is involved, house is involved, it is a property. If you were to build an apartment building complex, that is also a major investment. There are people coming to the island who will be coming here to find work, whether over there or whether other parts of Nevis. They're not coming here and own a home here. They're coming looking for somewhere to stay until they can do something else. So your apartment complex will be well in place. So that investment out of whatever monies you realize from over there can be reinvested for the betterment of yourself and your family. And kudos to those who are thinking along those lines. Kudos to those, and I commend Nevision. You see, we seem to think that Nevisians, some people out there anyway, seem to think less of Nevisians, you know. Nevisians are smart. Nevisians are astute. Nevisians are thinking every day. And Nevisians know exactly where they want to get to. So who are you to tell them? They didn't tell you. The majority of Nevisians didn't tell you what to do with yours. Well, who are you to tell them what to do with theirs? Because they know. Nevisians know what they want to do with their investments and their monies. It's theirs. And they must be given that right and that opportunity to make their own decisions. But I speak of the people's lands, which are held by the government. They are vested in the control of the government. If the government is to sell any acreage of lands, they must let the people know. I was the Minister of Land some years ago, and when we are selling lots of lands anyway, it's advertised, it is put out there, and you know, whatever concessionary price is offered to citizens. That's what the government does. No non-nationals or no person who is not a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis can come and buy government land. It is in the ordinance that governs the corporation, the NHLs down there. So when it comes to the people's lands, the government is the protector of those lands. When it comes to a person's private land, a person have the right to dispose or not to dispose of those lands. And we need to be clear about that, because all of this, oh, the government will force people to sell land. Oh, people don't sell your land. But as I said before, those who are being hypocritical about this whole process are the ones who have already collected. Some have sold 60 acres, some have sold 10 acres, some have sold 25 acres, some have sold 2 acres, some have sold 1 acre, some have sold half acre, some have sold acres of lands over there. Who am I to tell them what to do? Me? I have sold land that belonged to me before. Nobody could have told me not to sell my land or who to sell it to. Persons came and I decided not you, but I didn't tell them. In my mind I said not you, but you. That is my right. And that is a right that all of us have when we own a piece of land. And I'm going to repeat again. Once you have your land and you sell it, it is an investment, yes. You divest yourself of that investment and then you go and take that money and reinvest. You're no worse off. You might be even better off. Because if you sell at $6 a square foot over there, you might get a piece of land over here for $5 a square foot. And end up with a little bit extra in your pocket. We have to think in a broad way and understand that what we are being fed by some and some of the lies that we are hearing, we have to sit down and think through it and understand that people have their own agenda, you know, and their agenda don't include you. Their agenda is a selfish motive, all about themselves. And the sooner you realize who these folks are, the sooner you realize what their modus operandi is. I use big word, if it is at all, because we hear it coming from all kind of people anyway. It is so big. For years now we're hearing that. As soon as you find out what it is, and you realize where the hypocrisy lies, then you'll realize that you've been taken for a ride, fooling you. So you hear them say the Nevis Island administration is selling out 6 square miles of Nevis. What could go so? What could go so? 6 square miles of Nevis. Just wrap your head around that, people of Nevis. And then mark up a map and say, oh, you gone all the way. Oh my goodness. You also include where I live. My word. Right over there in Butlers where I live over there in Arthur Evelyn's estate, all the way over there, I see they mark up a whole map, say, all out here, the Nevis Island administration selling out. Well, I could sell my property. The bank could probably sell it if I don't pay, but I'm trying my best to pay. But when you think about it, then they say members of the NIA are forcing persons on Nevis to sell their lands to potential investors. What could go so? Where did that come from? I don't think I've ever heard anyone from the NIA picking up the phone and calling anybody over there or out there in the community to say sell your land. I hope not, because it's none of the business of the NIA or anyone in the NIA to call anybody to tell them to sell any land anywhere. So if that is happening, which I know for a fact it's not happening, it should not be happening, and it's not happening. They say the NIA is collaborating with potential investors who are criminals. People, let's stop this thing, eh? Because, you see, this whole thing about criminal and criminality, right? I am telling you, I'm not going to go down that road on Von Radio, but there are some out there who are calling people criminals, eh? And if you know their history, I think they better... Anyway, let's move on. They say the federal government has oversight of lands in Nevis. What could go so? In 1983, when we received our independence, the lands in St. Kitts were vested in the government in St. Kitts, and the lands in Nevis were vested in the Nevis Island administration. That is why the NHLDC was formed, to sell lands that are considered crown lands that are vested in the NIA, because the NIA cannot sell crown lands. You must be able to pass on a title to someone, and that is why the NHLDC was established, so that land can move from the crown to the NHLDC, and that is the entity or the agency that can, offer or present a title, a certificate of title, to a landowner on behalf, or they work on behalf of the NIA, right? I hope I would have put it over as best as I can. So, federal government having oversight of land in Nevis, nothing to all go so. And as a matter of fact, everything that is over here underneath the earth in Nevis, or water, I wonder if any gold or diamond is under our earth here in Nevis. Oil, maybe oil, geothermal, everything, anything over here on Nevis belongs to the people of Nevis. Every bit of land that is vested in the Nevis Island administration, and whatever resources are there above or below the ground, belongs to the people of Nevis. So I hope that clears up some of the talk that is out there. And then they said that fishermen and all kind of things will be locked out and can't go fishing in those areas. Well, all that is, in my opinion, is just rubbish. That is a part of the politics, and that is what people does when they're hypocritical, disingenuous, and trying to fool people. Some time ago, I said here on this radio, and I continue to say it, that the NRP has a certain, well, let's put it this way. They have something about them. Yeah, it's a part of their DNA. When it comes to the NRP, they tell you a bunch of lies, misinformation. They seem to come with things that are so far left field, that sometimes you wonder where they make up these things, how they come about these things. But then again, that is their style of politics, and perhaps that is why we have survived and have been strengthened and given the mandate by the people of Nevis, because we have always come with transparency to the people of Nevis. You may not hear something as soon as it is known from this government, and that's not how government operate. It seems as though the NRP would say to us, as soon as you hear today, tell them the same minute. If you have a potential development coming, bring it out to the public immediately. No. I remember the NRP was on the radio talking about Amman Hotel for years. No Amman has come as yet, and I don't think Amman would come. But one of the things that I found out, or we found out when we got into government, the lands down there at Indian Castle were not even owned by the government, by the NIA, by the people of Nevis. They were not owned. They were out there held by what do you call now? Not a certificate of title. There's a term that is used by deed. When you own something, or you say you have a paper, you have a piece of deed for a piece of land, that is, in this context that I'm talking, is a worthless piece of paper as far as I'm concerned. So you're out there touting that you have this thing coming, Amman coming, and you don't own the land. We, as a government, are the ones who went about and did the legal work when we got into government to ensure that a certificate of title is now in the hands of the people of Nevis through the Nevis Island administration. A certificate of title is now had by us. It was had by us in government once we got into government, and we looked into that whole project that they were talking about down there. Only now we have a title, but they were all there touting for years. Amman coming, Amman, 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 and didn't own the land. We were able to rectify that. So that is when you go out and you mouth off and you say, this is coming, that is coming, geothermal is coming. I remember they had a whole thing down in Charlestown, like, what was it? Like Culturama, Juve, whatever they want to call it down there. One Friday afternoon with music, pick up and all kind of balloon and all kind of things, say, geothermal is coming. They had a christening party and not even the baby was conceived yet. So all kind of foolishness we've seen from the NRP, and that is why we have always been circumspect about what we do and what we say, because the whole idea is to come to the people of Nevis when you have something concrete. When you're able to say, this is what we are presenting to you. And that is a sign of respect. That is a sign of respect when you come to the people with something sensible and you understand that you have that commitment to the people of Nevis, where you'll have to be transparent. And transparency has always been a part of our good governance agenda. And so when you hear them saying, oh, they were hiding this and hiding that, you can't be hiding what? Hiding what? You have to have the facts, and you have to have something to present. So, here are some facts. I'll start by saying that the NIA hasn't sold one bit of land over there on the south coast. All the lands have been negotiated for. Some have been bought, some are still being negotiated for, and that is through private entities. And I will say to you that this particular development will bring a number of jobs to Nevis. It is something that can be transformational. And when I say a number of jobs, I'm talking about permanent, long-term jobs. And if it is that there will be a hotel or two over there, the size of Four Seasons with golf course and the likes, and restaurants and bars and other entertainment and all. Well, I started speaking last week about, not last week, the week before, about possibly the type of housing that will be over there, high-end and high network persons. You're looking at some of these villas down at Four Seasons that are valued at, maybe $10 million, $5 million over there. I anticipate the same thing. Because this will be one of the first such development in the Caribbean. We are setting the bar, and we are setting the foundation for possibly other neighboring countries to follow. Just like we were the first to establish our passport, our citizenship by investment program, the first in 1984, and everyone thereafter would have followed. The first and the oldest, or the eldest, if I were to put it in standard English, the eldest program in the world, and everyone else have fashioned their program based on that same citizenship by investment program that was established back in 1984. And the same thing with this special sustainable zone. It will be the first in the Caribbean, and as such, many will follow. We know we have economic zones throughout the Caribbean, Jamaica, Bahamas, you know, neighboring islands as well, on the French side in Saint Martin, Guadeloupe, Martinique, you name it, Cayman Islands. These are special economic zones. This will be a special sustainable zone. So it would operate differently. People are going to live there, work there. In a special economic zone, it is all meant to attract businesses. This will attract business and residents. So it would be a combination of many things over there. And it will be the first in the Caribbean. And like I said, it will focus heavily on providing employment and sustainable development in Nevis. And we talk about small island developing state. We are one of such. But also, you have heard from the Prime Minister about making St. Kitts Nevis, I wrote it down here, a sustainable island state. That is the term. Everything we talk about these days is sustainable. Sustainable agriculture, sustainable energy, sustainable infrastructure, sustainability in how we operate to make sure that we are not in conflict with environmental matters and environmental issues. So this particular bill that was passed is going to be a discussion. There is going to be a discussion from now until such time. And I believe I heard the Premier say that at some point there will be town hall meetings where the developers will be rolling out their plans and showing you exactly what they're bringing to the south of Nevis. The Nevis Island Administration as well will have to stay in touch with the people of Nevis and continue to provide information, because that is how you'll educate your people and counter some of the negatives that are out there, counter some of the lies and some of the deception that is being presented out there by some in those quarters and the other side that have nothing better to do than to provide negativity. Every time there's a development plan for Nevis, all you hear is pure negative coming from the other side. We haven't even touched on the airport in recent times, but I'll say to you that all of the plans are moving forward. We are putting all of the necessary things in place, and then we'll roll out with our groundbreaking ceremony in short order. But they have also fought against that. They fight against geothermal. They fight against the roads that we try to build. They fight against our water. They take up our water and give it away to even a company where we were paying over $55,000 a month for our water. Our water, US dollars that is. Up to when the contract was done after a 10-year period, we spent over $30 million to a private company just to pump our water to us. When we have been doing that prior to 2008, we were doing all that by ourselves here on the island of Nevis, and happy take it out and give it away. So who have the best interests of the people of Nevis at heart? Over $30 million we spent on paying water bills around here. Not us at home, but I mean the government paid to this entity. $30 million plus. Electricity was being consumed and we had to pay that. That is the NRP for you. So everything is pure negative. And I like how the people have been talking here on the island of Nevis. NRP, the good weather there. They're right in opposition, let them stay right there. And the people are saying it out there, loud and clear. And I'll end as I started. You all continue talking about this foreigner thing, because you're being led by a foreigner. Based on your line of argument, you have a foreigner running your party. So if you all want to continue to knock foreigners, shame on you, because you have a foreigner running your party. What a good thing. I'm glad my leader was born here on the island of Nevis, and here's where he lives. And here's where he'll stay. And all of us who are born and raised here, here's here. But I said to those who have acquired our passport, Nevis is your home. Come and invest. Come and see where opportunities are. And whether it's 7,000, 10,000, 20,000, come home. It's your home. Nevis have space. And when you come, try and create some opportunity for those who are here, whether in construction, sub-construction, or whatever you call it, electricity, plumbing, whatever, all those things. Those technical people are around here. Skilled persons are around here to utilize their skills as much as you can. Opportunities is what we're looking for. An improvement in the lives and the livelihood of our people. Ladies and gentlemen, oh my goodness, 2 o'clock on the dot. My engineer just gave me a signal, like to zip it. So I am done for the day. I'm done for the day, and it was indeed my pleasure being here. It is always an immense pleasure coming here on a Friday afternoon. And as I usually say in closing, if you go to church on a Saturday, go and serve your God. If you go to church on a Sunday, do likewise. Say a prayer for the station. Say a prayer for myself, for me as well. And say a prayer for the island of Nevis and the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Pray for God's blessings on this beautiful federation, and may God continue to bless us always. May He continue to guide us and protect us. Have a wonderful weekend, and continue to be good citizens and continue to contribute to the development of this country. We're all needed. All hands on deck. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend.
And opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.